great. You know, they revitalized some of the areas. They're injecting money into the areas, but at what expense? And who's paying the price? Who's being gentrified? So on and so forth.
Okay, so just so you know, we just went live, so I'm gonna say what's up to my audience. Check it out. You're here for a very, very special episode of DGL7. Now, just so you know, I've been in the third party space for over 20 years, and after seeing how things like the recently with right to repair, how Democrats often served as a final nail in the coffin for true legislative reform. I'm not saying they're all bad, not saying they're all good, but in the third party, there's historical problems going on. But before, now Supreme is here from the Wu Tang clan. I'm so honored by his presence today. Now there's some,
Peace.
thank you so much. Now there's other activists I work with, that are working on very real issues, that the media is really not talking about, and these candidates are not talking about. So thank you so much. I just want to give them a brief shine. I want to just quickly introduce Ramona. She's working on public housing, Safe Section 9. Can you just do a quick introduction?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Guatuke Ini Inaru, and my colonial name is Ramona. I am a public housing tenant in the South Bronx, and I am the founder of Safe Section 9. Safe Section 9 works to educate and empower public housing tenants across the country to lobby for the preservation and expansion of public housing.
Yeah. Now, that's a huge voting block and a very powerful, potential political ally. Also, I have Brian. He's also a former two-time legislative, but I'll let him say it himself. Go ahead, Brian. Introduce yourself. Brian, I can't hear you.
Three-term state legislator from New Hampshire and organizer with the American Union of Swing Voters, trying to collectively bargain for a better social contract in 2024, one that'll end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars.
Okay. Dion, you want to talk about yourself real quick?
I'm County Committeeman Dion Powell, the 79th Century District here in the Bronx, former Assistant State Director of Blexit, New York, and I'm also with the Strong Enough Achievers Foundation.
Okay. He's very strong. He's a political consultant here in New York City, and he's part of taking over local government. Mark is actually my ally in Washington State. This is actually the North Carolina. I also have another ally in Pennsylvania. These are very key swing states where we can actually get political change to happen sometimes with these key states. So these are powerful, political allies. So go ahead, Mark from Washington State. Go ahead. What are you working on right now?
Hi, I'm Mark Mixon. I'm a political organizer and labor union organizer. I helped found the People's Party of Washington, which is now defunct. Just helped on the executive committee of the Washington Forward Party, and we just founded as a major party there. And I'm working on the Jason Call for Congress campaign, which is a green campaign for Congress here in Washington.
Yeah. So, and thank you for just earlier stating your support for public housing. And other people like Stapleton House is kind of like the birth of Wu Tang right there, Shaolin. Supreme, why don't you talk about yourself and your own interest in this whole thing?
All right, peace, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here. Mark, Dion, Brian, Ramona, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate you all. People know our history, right? But people don't know us individually, and I think that's the big disconnect from a lot of artists or quote unquote celebrities today. We come from the same background, we come from the same projects, we come from the same neighborhoods, we come from the same environments, and because we attain some sort of financial success or notoriety in the public eye doesn't mean that, and I can only speak for Wu Tang, that we have disconnected from our people, from our neighborhoods, our environments, and from the plight, the struggle, the conditions. So we're very much involved as much as we can be outside of dealing with our families, outside of dealing with projects and things that we're working on to sustain ourselves and to be able to fund and be active in different issues around the globe. But we're still very much involved, and we help wherever we can, and we inject ourselves in the issues that matter, right? And I think everybody here is here for the same cause and the same reason. Something that I always tell people is if you're not helping, you're hurting, right? And the highest honor that we can give to the Creator, the highest honor that we can give to one another as humans, as a human family, is to serve one another. So that's what I'm here to do in whatever capacity is needed. So I'll share my expertise as we proceed tonight.
All right, and now I really appreciate your investigation of third parties, because sometimes, right, we can't rely on the Democrats, sometimes we can't rely on the Republicans. We have to really make
Correct. None of
intelligent decisions. Yeah. So
correct.
the thing is that right now the third party space at the Rage Against the War Machine, they had Angela McArdle, the chair of the Libertarian Party, a former presidential candidate Jill Stein, and this represents a historic convergence of past and current leaders of third party movements getting together under the banner of ineffective celebrities who managed to do so little in infrastructure that Cornel West had to abandon the People's Party due to a lack of competent leadership.
Correct.
And the people are here because they're part of this fight, and the people cannot be ignored and pushed to the side. You yourself, Wu Tang, was cut from the event, and the thing is that actually you protested and left it on your own, right, which I really appreciate, and you stood out against it. The press did not carry that at all. The same way they do not carry about public housing, a historic end to public housing, as you know, an international embarrassment, and the case of 2 wrongfully convicted men. While I'm going to Philadelphia this weekend with the first man freed on DNA evidence, Vincent Moto, to try to address the case of the second longest man held for wrongful incarceration, Reverend Keith Gadsden, and Nolan Farrell, who's taken on the corrupt DA here, and the press once again is not helping either of these issues. And people like yourself, it's good that you got to see how fake it all is. What issues were they actually working on? Who were they actually helping? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the thing is, this I'm very direct when I speak.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like I said, if you're not helping, you're hurting. So who are you serving, right? When we did the numbers, when we did the receipts, when we did the prices, when we looked at all the people that they chose, right? Who set up the accounts? Who set up everything? What impact did the event have? We know that the government is owned, is controlled. We know that the pharmaceutical industry is controlled. We know that our food is controlled. We know who owns it. We know who's the largest landowner in the country, right? So we know when prisons were created, how they were created after slavery, the Reconstruction period, the vagrancy, the loitering laws, how that happened, how the chain gangs and the penitentiary got created, and how the work system, which is now on the market, Prison Industries of America, right, got created. We could go through the Board of Education, through the Rockefellers. We can go through the corporations. We can go through what a corpse is. We can go through the UCC codes and the federal codes and realize that none of them are serving us, because nobody has a living trust, living wills. We're sold into bondage. We're sold into the national debt. So it's like, when they didn't want to address any of these issues, when they didn't want to acknowledge, what birth certificate is, what a social security card is, what are we really doing? Why things are ineffective? Why are these things ineffective? Something that I said on NPR radio when we fought the North Dakota Access Pipeline and we won that. I said nothing taken by bloodshed can be regained through protest. So you can make signs, we can protest all day. But until we're ready to sacrifice and until we're ready to put ourselves on the line, and that doesn't necessarily mean physical violence or uprising against the government all the time, but until we're ready to do the work that is needed to enact, right, activate, like Sister Ramona said, and educate the people, right, until they have knowledge of themselves, until they have knowledge of these systems, until they understand who and what they are, what America is, what a corporation is, what Washington, D.C. is, right? And how all these things operate in the legal field and the legal aspects, then they'll never be able to legally have ground until we have a nationality, until we have an identity, until we're recognized by the United Nations, until, we have living trust and we're no longer under a system of death, really, in honesty, right? Then how can we sit at the table? You see? So when I brought these issues up to them and they didn't want to address these issues, they didn't want to confront these issues, then, that's when I took a second look. That's when I started to really, more than just vet out the people that were involved, but I did my homework on the companies they hired, the way they set up their accounts, and I went through the entire Libertarian Party, and I found out everything that I needed to find out, and it was immediate. The same way we find out about Republicans and we find out about Democrats and we find out all their dirt. We find out they're all related and we find out that you're just choosing. It's just like we just arguing and choosing the best slave master at this point.
You know, one thing
You
I can just
know?
throw out there too, you may not have known, the person who got the permit for the event is actually tied to a public relations company that actually does that tries to repair people with sexual assault,
Yeah, just like
pasts.
the Sound of Freedom. I've been
Yes.
supporting I've been supporting the brother from the Underground Railroad, right? What's his name? Child trafficking. I can't remember his
Okay.
name right now.
Okay.
So the Sound of Freedom just comes out. I get a text message. Did you see my movie? I said, yeah. I know about it. I said, but I didn't watch it. I said, but I did see this, and I sent him a link. And Carlos Slim and the Clinton Foundation funded the movie. So you got
Interesting.
pedophile groups, known pedophiles, right?
Hey, I
Known
gotta look at it.
pedophiles
I gotta look it up. That's an interesting claim.
who've
I'm
done
gonna look
all
it
the
up.
work, who've done all the work through Haiti, through done all the work through Mexico, and the Clinton Foundation. I mean, Clinton Foundation, they directly support Ghislaine Maxwell and my boy who's still alive. They say he's dead, but we got 6 photos of him alive 6 days after he hung himself, Epstein. You know, so yeah, they take your Instagram, they attack you, they attack your celebrity, they'll attack your finances, so on and so forth. But these people are still backed by and they're still supported and they're still controlled. You see, if it's televised, we know that after 9/11, everything that goes on the television or telling you a vision or the tale of a vision is controlled by the Pentagon. It's under Pentagon approval.
You
You see,
know,
so what's
yeah.
true?
One
The only
thing,
truth
yeah.
is the truth that's happening here. The only truth are the 6 people that I'm looking at right now and the people that are tuned into this truth, into this I would say this sacred session that's transpiring between us. The only truth is happening between the people. This is the universe. When you and I verse, when you and I verse, we share the unity, the one verse. And until we share that truth with each other, then we're never going to be on their radios. We're never, no matter how much fame, we're the number
Yeah.
one group. We've broken all the records. We pioneered everything. It doesn't matter. They're not going to let us tell the truth.
And one of the chilling things is the third party is supposed to be an alternate, is supposed to be a safety valve to try
Yeah,
to
but
check the power. But the thing is that the establishment knows this as well, and I really feel like they're trying
exactly.
to
And we're
establish
the
control in
third
that
party's
arena.
infiltrated. The third party's infiltrated and compromised. I
Yeah,
promise you.
I am really, and this is evidence right here of this event. You can see the ties to CPI once again, Caleb Maupin, the sexual assault allegations of Nick Brana, the way they're bringing in Scott Ritter to normalize
Mhm.
sexual assault going on.
Correct.
And unfortunately, Code Pink, right? You see me yelling about Medea Benjamin. You can see a long trail of sexual abuse accusations going on in the organization, them papering it over for their convenience. There's a sick
I'm
culture
wondering
of
why.
elitism. Yeah, go ahead.
Correct. I'm wondering why there are no attorneys who know that any of these people can file sovereignty. And once they file their UCC one and they become sovereign, then they are free of any charges made against their corporation, aka their birth certificate. And then it's like if you get charged, they charge your corporation and they set a bond, and a bond can be paid because we're debt slaves.
Right.
So where are any of the attorneys or any of the groups just raise money and raise what's necessary to file the UCC? And once these people become sovereign, there can be no alien, a lien, because they will have inalienable rights. They cannot be charged because they are now a living person and they're not under a dead corpse, a trust.
So what can
That's the simplest way to free them. That's why Joe and his little pedo son, pedo Joe and his little rapist crackhead son, nothing happens to them in Washington D.C. The debt collectors, because they're sovereign, they're free, so they cannot be charged.
okay?
But
So
we have to share this knowledge with each other, and there are attorneys out here that know this. Why is nobody willing to challenge, even in the alternative, the third party, to just do what they know is their legal right?
now a lot more people know about it thanks to you speaking about it on the program. And actually, I'd like to give a chance for each person here who's attending to talk about how they could, or maybe Supreme, you could ask them, right? Or maybe you want to direct it. How can these people that are here at this meeting today help you? These are some of the best activists that I know. Anybody want to volunteer?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the perspective of those of us that are fighting for public housing, which has been such an integral piece to urban culture, to hip hop, and to one of the biggest
Especially New
exports that
York.
we have
Yes.
coming out of America. One of the things that we try to do is we recognize that the existing political system doesn't truly serve us. So
Correct.
actually teaching tenants how to decipher and understand policy and then develop their own policy demands is key to them taking ownership of their existence. And what we have found is that we're actually able to negotiate and make progress with both Republicans and Democrats because public housing at its core is a program that is the most robust when it comes to tenant protections. It is the one that offers the most housing security for working class families. And one of the things I was mentioning earlier is as even this year, as we're talking about 50 years of hip hop, the role that
Yes.
public housing played in giving birth to hip hop is being
Yes.
ignored by our own community, right? So one of the things that we're trying to work with or work towards right now in Safe Section 9 is the creation of another video on our YouTube. We do have the history of public housing video, but we want to show where that nexus is, right? Because public housing cannot be dismissed as something that has failed when you truly understand like the racist policies from redlining
Red
to
line.
home
Yes.
ownership loans to the disinvestment in public housing over the last 30 years. The reversal that has to take place is one that has to happen within our own community and also externally, right? So I
Correct.
think one question I would want to ask is, is there a space in this celebration of hip hop to acknowledge public housing and not only acknowledge it, but to support those of us that are fighting to keep it alive? Because right now, New York City is facing demolition. It's the first demolition that would happen down in Chelsea. And this is the development that gave us Whoopi Goldberg. And the tenants
Yes.
are fighting it extremely aggressively, but because we are tenant led and basically funded and supported by people with different talents, it's a very difficult fight to take on when the community perspective and even amongst our own neighbors is that public housing is the ghetto or it's the slum, when really
Yeah.
that experience of being in a slum is what gives you the magic of hip hop and urban culture itself.
If I could kick in
That's
one
true.
thing, the thing is that one thing, like, to help you like identify like organizations that are fake. One thing that I would ask you to do is a lot of these organizations they're going to help the people. I want you to start asking yourself right away how they're helping people right now. Now, the fact of the matter is that there's an expanding culture of exploitation that's installed itself in the campaign scene. Has a lot of similarities to the music industry, which is probably why you got hip to the game quick. You know what I mean? And props to you on that. There's expanding use of NDAs in political campaigns, not just in the campaigns themselves, but also in the media that covers the campaigns, which has led to a cloak of silence that has put itself over the truth. And people like yourselves, I thank God you're here. Maybe some light, some more truth can be shown on the light today. You know what I mean? And thanks for exposing this event that's coming up in August with the third with this Mike Termat. Actually, I can show you the speaker list. Right? They have Amadou Diallo speaking at the event. They got some really high profile people greenlighting these fakes and these sexual abusers, which has been proven and documented on my channel. Mark, you know what I'm talking about, right? Mark, you told Cornel West yourself about the way workers were treated at the People's Party, right, Mark? The elected chair of People's Party of Washington State.
I will not. I did not speak with Cornell directly, no, but the Black Voters Circle was speaking with a Cornell staffer. I will say, and asking to meet with him.
I told Cornell directly to his face. Okay, either way, yeah. So look, look, I'm not saying Cornelius is all bad, but he's kind of he's not talking with us little people anymore. But Supreme is. Thank you so much, Supreme. Make sure that don't just go talk to the managers. Talk to the little people who are working at the organization. See how they actually treat their own little people, and then you'll see.
Listen.
Yeah, go ahead.
The way you treat the so-called lowest person in society, a waitress, a doorman, the way you treat anybody is only a reflection of yourself. Period.
Yeah.
That's it. What Sister Ferreira was saying in regard to public housing is we know they're projects, right? And projects are literally what they're called. I remember I read the dictionary when I was 12 years old, A to Z. I read every word, right? And then I had a rhyming dictionary. I had dictionary, Spanish dictionary. I had a dictionary, synonyms and antonyms. I had dictionary. I had a doctor's dictionary. I used to read dictionaries because my philosophy when I was 12, I said I could read all these books, or if I read the book with all the words, then I read every book because books
Okay.
are made of words, right?
All right.
So, right, where was this from? It's because, like she said, I came from drug overdoses, abuse, violence, murder, the projects, guns, death. Like I came from that, you know. But all of that is where all of these songs, all of these lyrics, all of these songs come from that we write, right? So there will be no hip hop, right? We know Sedgwick Ave is the
Exactly.
birthplace. Okay. So I lived in River Park Towers. I lived in Fort Greene. Like I lived there. You know what I'm saying? You know? So it's like growing up in the Bay Area and then growing up in New York, I saw it. I experienced it. I'm 50 this year. It's the 50th anniversary, it's the 30th anniversary of Wu Tang, the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So yes, there's definitely a space for it, right? And it needs to be acknowledged, and it needs to be something that is shared because it's overlooked. And there is a conversation of why don't the younger artists acknowledge the older artists? Why don't you say where you got those lyrics from? Why don't you say who influenced you? Why don't you say where you sampled that track from? You know, and we could say like, you got that track from, you know what I'm saying, Nas. All right, cool, you got that track from Nas, but Nas sampled it from Art Blakey or John Cole. So let's give all the history. Okay, and that's fine. We could give credit to, Crazy Legs and Bobito, and give crazy, Africa Bam and Cool Herc, and we can give credit to all these people, but where did it happen? And who's still in those projects? Yeah, you live in Calabasas. Okay, but they still live in Harlem. They still live in the Bronx. They still
Yeah.
on the island, you
And I
know?
think
So
that's a direct reflection of not only the disinvestment in public housing, but the privatization of our public education system. One of the
exactly.
core things to, when I talk to people about the nexus of hip hop and public housing is it's created in public housing, and these parties are happening in people's homes and in our community centers. Our community centers were safe havens, right?
Yeah, they
Where you
were.
had after school programming, where you had resources,
That they
educational
taking all away
tools,
now.
We won't
and
agree on
all of that
everything.
got taken away after Reagan, right? So when I look
Yep.
at the future of public housing, I think about, yeah, we need to make it sustainable. It needs to become green. It needs to be expanded. But if we're going to be seeking to develop the next Wu Tang and make it a Wu Tang that is aware and culturally connected and grounded, we have to have the resources and the empowerment that only public housing affords people of color in America, right? And without the resources of the community centers and the programming and the after school care and sometimes the meals that were coming out of public housing developments like Sedgwick, hip hop wouldn't exist, right? So it's like
Correct.
I'm always stunned that a lot of the hip hop artists decide to pay back the community by creating like a crypto camp. Most of the kids in my development are illiterate right now
Mm.
because public housing has failed us. So how do I
I-
teach you crypto
Crypto.
if you
or
can't
coding
read,
classes. Yeah, and they can't read.
right?
Coding, yeah.
And you can't read. So it's like when we go out into the community and we ask the kids, like, what do you want? They returned almost to the same needs that their grandparents had. And hip hop creators were first and second generation public housing, right? Public housing is desegregated in the 1950s through a lawsuit. And that's where you see 20 years later, the youth coming up and developing a product and a culture because their parents had housing security. Now we're looking at like 40 years later, right? These kids are not having that same experience in public housing.
Correct. Correct. I started, I was telling you about dictionaries. When I read what the word ghetto meant, it said a restricted area for the Jews. That was the definition of ghetto. But I never saw a Jew in the ghetto in my life, ever. You see? So those roles were changed. Um, if we want to go to Black's Law Dictionary and look up what the word black means, we're literally chattel property. We have no identity. We're not even recognized as a living human entity. Another definition is we're literally meat, like for processing. These are the legal terms and definitions. So when we write black on our birth certificates or anything that's not, if you don't have a flag at the United Nations and you claim you, then you have no nationality. So then you're not recognized. We have to educate ourselves and see. This is the breakdown with from my perspective. The breakdown is they allowed certain of us to reach or attain success, right? I tried to start a union in Manhattan, right? We had the hip hop convention with the Nation of Islam. All right, peace, dog. Good looking. We had the with the Nation of Islam. We did that. We had a few talks, a few conversations, right? Things have happened. Nothing's been done. We're not affecting change. We're not. I just went to New York. I came from New York. The soul of New York, the spirit, like it's gone. I went to a law school. I went to 100, 26 and 7th Ave, Apollo 116, 125. Everything's done
They've killed it.
because now you need license, you need permits. So they're using laws, LAW, land, air, and water. People don't even know what law means, right? They're using the laws, they're using the UCC codes, they're using federal codes, they're using amendments, they're using bylaws, they're using uh, codes and statutes which are totally illegal. But we don't know the law, so they just impose their will on us. You don't need a driver's license. You don't need to register your vehicle, but they tell us we do, so we continue to do it, even though it's illegal, right? So I think our first step is again us taking responsibility, right? Past this conversation, and we have another conversation to where we try to get the necessary people involved because we know that our leader's been killed, our leader's been assassinated, and that's a fear tactic. It's a given. It's gonna happen, you know, and it's always happened, But we also had the Jesse Jacksons, and we also had the people, who and Martin Luther Kings who weren't actually who they said they were. And when you read their FBI files and you read they dirt, and they were in fraternities and they were in secret orders and they were doing all their dirt on the down low, then we have to acknowledge the true history of things, right? It's like Wu Tang is for the children. We're going to do our job for the children. If you have a specific thing that I can enact or I can share with my brothers or I can share in the community of hip hop, right? Then I need to know that, right? So this is the first thing that needs to happen is we need to have the dialogue because I know what I know. We can talk about the issues, but what's the solution, right? And something that's actually gonna like we're to the point now to where we're so intelligent now. We have the knowledge, we have the resources to where we can say, you know what? Here's the issue. We're being blocked by this mayor, this senator, this congressman, this legislator, this lobbyist. Okay, cool. Well, here's what we need to file on them that will make them change their decision, that will back them up, that will incarcerate them, or will place a lien or a fine or a lawsuit against them that will succeed. You see? Everybody's on TikTok, everybody's on Instagram, everybody knows everything, but wisdom is the application of knowledge. Wisdom means to possess a wise dome, have wise words and actions. Knowledge and wisdom bring forth an understanding, right? So we know things, but we have to apply it to see it manifest and come into fruition in this simulation, in this 3D, in this matrix.
If I could add,
right?
think-
yeah.
Because every day that we talk, another child, every 40 seconds a child, every 30 seconds a child's getting kidnapped, getting taken. 800,000, but we know that's CPS. We know that's the school system. We know that's the school nurses. We know that's the ADD, ADHD game. And we know there's no there's no medical, there's nothing written on any medical journal anywhere that even exists, but it's a $30 billion industry. We know that the prison game is how much? You see, but we know that it's illegal because they're placing charges and liens against people and they're using their bodies to generate currency off of.
Yeah.
We know that the police don't even know the laws. They don't because the
I
laws.
think what you're hinting at really is like this idea of like how do we go back to the clan or unit or tribal mentality, where I think some of our past leaders have really failed us, and some past movements have
because
really
they were
died.
They were
and when you concentrate on one person, you are running the risk of idolizing a person into becoming obsolete, right? So developing community strength really has to happen at the community level. And because I think when we, go ahead.
Say for instance, I'm the guy in Supreme and I say, you know what? I sit my children down and I say, this is what it is. Like I got sat down. And they said, my father said, if you want to speak the truth, be willing to die or go to prison. Straight up. We walked across the street. He said, you see that homeless guy across the street? I said, yeah. He said, okay, the light changed. We walked past him. He said, did you see him? I said, yeah. He said, did we walk past him? I said, yeah. He said, there's a corner with your name on it. There's a corner for everybody in this country, and people are going to walk past you too. He said, you can have it easy now and hard later, or hard now and easy later. You choose. You see? That's it. We taught each other though. We taught each other. So when it came my turn and we were protesting, we were speaking out, and they were trying to shut a law school down. And I was in the Bay, and I was in New York, and I was active, and I was, in the situations I speak on. But when I was actively physically involved and we were making things happen, yeah, I got followed. Yeah, I got approached. Yeah, I got extorted. That happened. Yeah, I had the FBI come in my home, and I had the FBI put a gun in my mouth, and I had the FBI follow me again when I was 21, and they told me, we told you, didn't we tell you before? They said, you need to get wise like your father. Your father learned how to shut his mouth. We suggest you do the same thing. You see, that happened to me. So nobody can tell me that they won't. But say, for instance, I choose to sit my children down today and tell them, you know what, I'm going to make this move. And then you guys boost me up. We do the social media. We're streaming. We're hitting their algorithms, right? We're hitting the numbers. How long do you think it's going to take before I'm out of here? And then I'll be another post.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already saw that.
Yeah. It's important that we decentralize the power.
We gotta fight. Exactly. Yeah. And we gotta keep it amongst the people. I'm already a target.
On what really baffles me is, this idea of like when we talk to other groups. I just got out of a meeting with DSA, and they were wanting to talk about social housing. And social housing is a huge threat to public housing and true affordability, because most of the packets that are being introduced nationally that call for social housing are asking for everything that public housing has, but then they create a minimum income of $50,000 to $65,000. So it's keeping out our grandparents that are disabled or elderly or retired. And it's keeping out someone like myself who has to depend on public assistance because they won't give me disability, right? Yes. So when I raise to them, like, what is your issue with public housing? Why are you willing to fight for the creation of like a completely alternate system instead of supporting what is already truly mixed income, intergenerational, and gives you congressional rights that will never be given to anyone else in the future? Congress will never again sit down and say, hey, let's empower these group of people to educate, to participate, to rally, to campaign, and to actually be involved in the running of their homes. The only reason they did it is because when they were clearing out the slums, they were moving in World War II veterans and white people, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we give up on public housing, the chance of us ever getting something as beautiful or as good as public housing is slim to none.
And because in this climate, it's not going to happen. That's the 20-30 year plan that they had, because they already knew they were gentrifying these neighborhoods.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, if I could just.
So they gave us the crack, they gave us the guns, they let us create the gangs, they let us lower the property value. This is all by design. So this is what I'm saying. We know what they do. We know their plans, because people are patterns, right? And it's systematic, so it's going to cycle, right? Yeah. How are we going to educate our children when the Board of Education was created by Rockefeller, and Rockefeller created the Board of Education to create more slaves? Through the industrial age, school was 2 to 4 hours a week or a month?
Yeah.
And then,
we had to fight for more.
Exactly. So how are we going to educate and empower our children when they're indoctrinating them?
And then they let the public school system fail to then give us a solution of charters, which then gives us a segregated education system.
If I could jump in for a secin, by the way, I do support charters, but that's on a side note. But we're not going to agree on everything, but I am supportive of public housing. There's, we're going to see what we can agree on. But before I introduce two of the people that are also here, very powerful political allies, right? I'm going to introduce them in a second. I want to ask 3 things from Supreme himself, if he could support right now. Right now, they're trying to knock down Chelsea houses here in New York City. And I know it's a huge psychological blow for the tenants. They're trying to displace them. If you could speak out in support of the people in Chelsea housing and ask them to not knock down the houses and displace those people in public housing, that would be a huge psychological boost to those people. Could we get maybe
Of course.
You support them? Yo, that's awesome. Yo, I'm about to tell them that Supreme
here's
got their back.
Pretty
what
simple.
Up? Thank you. Go ahead.
The old saying stands the test of time. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for nothing. Right?
Fall for anything, yeah.
So
Two more things I want to ask right before you asked about the empowering other people. We have a program called Rep My Block. We've made the voter data available to the public, and we're trying to empower people to run for county committee themselves. They can't trust no savior. I'm not asking to vote for me. We're trying to. I would like your help to, support Rep My Block. And the last thing is that the August, we know that the Rage Against the War Machine event is going on. The event that screwed you at the last time, they're trying to do it again here in August. Would you also be
that's a
willing
money
to?
grab. They're not helping anybody.
Thank you
They're
for
not.
speaking out against that. Yeah, and also I will be counter protesting on that day. If anybody you know would support that counter protest on that day and help me out, I would thank God. Yeah, either way, thank you so much, Supreme.
Yeah, and I would love to get your contact information so that we can see how
Definitely.
we can
Yeah, brother,
amplify
give
your
her my
support of the
information.
public
I will.
housing.
I'll give it to Ramona.
I have
She's a good
a
friend.
venue in New York. I know I'll be in Philly and Pennsylvania in August.
We'll talk about Philly. This is a great time to
So yeah,
introduce.
we'll figure those dates out, and maybe I can come through and support one of these events.
Chinchilla Jonisi
Okay.
is a very key ally in Philly. Oh my, she just got a judge. Like, she's incredible. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Go ahead, Chinchilla.
Okay, hey everybody. Hi. Sorry, I just had a chance to get on. I do so many different Zooms and all and radio shows. But yes, I am in Philadelphia, and I'm Dr. Chinchilla Jonicia, aka Chinchilla J, the Queen of Justice. And in Philadelphia, I fight a lot against gentrification. So that's something big that's going on all across the city of Philadelphia, and it's crazy. On Saturday, I was at an event. They asked me to come. They're trying to make Martin Luther King Jr., there's a park there that was built in 1968 that was dedicated in Dr. King's memory. And it's a small little park, but it's in the in the neighborhood in Philadelphia that, of course, they're trying to gentrify. And so they've been doing it for the past few years. But now they're trying to take that park and make it into a doggy park. And I'm like, a doggy park? So they asked me to come. So I spoke out about that for a good while. And that's on my Facebook page because it's just crazy. And I said, okay, so what do you mean? They're trying to shit all over Dr. King's memory? So that's like basically what they're trying to do, shit on his memory, by making that into a doggy park. So, but it can't happen.
Not even a community like we see the gardens where they grow fruits and vegetables. Like nothing positive, just a dog park.
A doggy park. They want it to be a doggy park, and now since '68, it's been like a nice little place for the neighbors in that community to get together and sit and talk, and for the kids to play and run around. And so they're not going to make that into a doggy park because I'm going to help them fight against that because it's so very wrong. And since it was built in 1968, where there's the plaque there that shows that was the year it was dedicated to Dr. King. And it says, in conjunction with the city of Philadelphia. So how can Philadelphia now act like they don't know about this? So they act like they didn't know about that. But I saw that and I said, well, look, 50 years or older, if it's a landmark in the city and it's older, 50 years or older, it's automatically historical.
Yeah.
So
the reason that you're seeing
landmark.
that shift is because when your region is gentrified, one of the things that happens is the newcomers are at a higher level of income, which allows them the opportunity to have pets.
Exactly.
So the first sign of gentrification is really how many dogs you see walking around your neighborhood.
Yeah, that's another one too.
That's a huge thing to look for because
Oh,
the minute
yeah,
you
yeah.
start hearing in the
Yes.
community board, we need a dog park. That means all of a sudden, all these people that don't know how to handle the streets and their dog at the same time want to park their dogs.
That's right. After those dogs come Starbucks.
Yes.
But here.
Speaking of dogs, mine is like, I'm going to join you guys now.
Yeah. And then the crazy thing.
when we deal with this, sister Jonisha, dogs spelled backwards is God.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes.
Okay. So
yeah.
We know that.
And that's what say man's best friend. So yeah.
Here's my buddy.
We can go to the Caucasus Mountains in Europe and we can go through the history of why dog is man's best friend. But that's another story. But listen here.
Yeah.
Find out who proposed it and find out who's financing him. Because they get paid. This is
of course.
Propose them.
Of course. We know city council is corrupt. Okay, right here in the city of Philadelphia. I've exposed so many of the corrupt ones.
Yeah.
And we fought against the doggy park they were trying to build in South Philadelphia. They were trying to turn a wonderful playground. It's a nice sized playground, with the stuff for the kids and then the other part for adults to sit in. And they wanted to make a section of that into a doggy park. And we fought against that about 3 years ago. So no doggy park is there. So
what's funny is, like you look at public housing culture and when we do door knocking, and I know Philadelphia is losing a lot of its public housing through privatization. But when we do door knocking, public housing tenants have a huge number of dogs. But our dogs are forced to engage other humans and other pets, right? In real life settings. Our dogs don't have the luxury, like my puppy's waiting to get walked right now. And like he doesn't have the luxury of just hanging out in a park.
Yeah.
And chilling in the sun. Like he just doesn't.
Right.
He has to come to terms with like the seniors in my building. He has to learn how to act around other people and around other pets. So it's truly a luxury, and it's a huge signal that there's a developer in that community that's now pushing for that dog park. So you definitely have to find out who's willing to pay for the remake of that park.
Yeah, but Chinchilla, you do such amazing.
They'll benefit from it.
Chinchilla, you do such amazing.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be a doggy park, so there's no way the city can actually do that because it's an historical landmark. So they can't touch it. They cannot change the face of what it was designed to be since 1968. So I that's what I fight against: gentrification. I fight for the wrongfully incarcerated, and all types of injustices in America is what I fight for. I'm an advocate, an activist, an abolitionist, the whole nine. I'm a journalist, an investigative reporter, former attorney, and a lot of things. But right now, my concentration is on all the different types of injustice in this country that we face every day, and trying to get legislation changed, new legislation enacted, and different things of that nature. And Supreme, I heard you say that you were coming to Philly in August. That's great. This Sunday in Philadelphia, we're having our third annual Day of Freedom. It would be awesome if you can come for that. But it's this Sunday.
Tell them to fly me out. I'll come.
Okay, from noon until 7. Unfortunately, we don't have a budget because I operate off of zero funds.
Yeah,
everything straight
That's
from the
a lot
hip.
of work.
Yeah, but it's going to be a day for exonerees, men and women that have been exonerated from a wrongful conviction. Also, those that are still wrongfully incarcerated, their families will also be out speaking that day, telling the stories of their loved ones. Former juvenile lifers will be out. And we have a chess tournament going on, and a fishing competition, and live entertainment, food and drinks, and it's going to be awesome. DJ Elf7 will be there, DJing and speaking. It's going to be a great day.
She also works with Vincent Moda, the first man freed on DNA evidence in Philly history, and she's providing help with us where a lot of organizations are not, with the second longest man incarcerated in New York State history, freed by the longest serving state senator in New York State history. She's a key ally for us. A lot of New York people, National Action Network has helped some, but really Chinchilla Janice has been much more helpful. She's been a leading in terms of really helping fight brothers that are fighting against wrongful incarceration. She also got a judge elected. She's doing a lot of powerful work in a swing state. I cannot overstate how important Chinchilla Janice is as a strategic partner for getting political work done. And I just want to also, my co-host, Lisa, she's actually, just in New York is the largest market in the nation with 8.5 million people. LA is 4 million, and Chicago is 2 million. So Lisa's representing our Los Angeles, the second largest market in the nation. We're a badass team. Go ahead, Lisa, introduce yourself.
Nice to meet
Lisa,
all of you.
I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Oh, she is muted.
Lisa, there you go.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Doing a lot of work and doing a lot of stuff, and just trying to, within the political sphere and outside of it, trying to make as much change as I can. Right now, I'm a big advocate for education, a big advocate for homeschool. I like to say this every time, that homeschooling has exploded in the Black community, and one out of every, it went up to 17%, but now 11% of all Black families in the United States homeschool.
That's beautiful.
It's remarkable. It is beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. And I've been a homeschooling evangelist, for many years, and it's wonderful to see so many people take the education of their children into their own hands and not hand it off to others to kind of, as you said, indoctrinate your kids. And I'm not saying that like everything they're being taught in schools is bad, and I'm not saying all public schooling is bad. I'm just saying that a lot of times you kind of lose your kids, to whatever is going on in the zeitgeist. And this is a way to kind of, hey, how are you?
Oh my goodness,
Hey.
what's up? All right, cool. Kids jumping in. All right.
They're so beautiful. Cutie pies.
Daddy's working to save the world right here.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
Thank you,
homeschool. We
Sabrina.
homeschool. We do it at home.
All right.
Great.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man.
Awesome.
Hey, man, nice to meet you, man.
Hey.
Your dad's a wonderful man. I appreciate him. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
gotta homeschool. Homeschooling is the key. Something that I
That
told
is.
their mother. I told their mother like this. I said, look. I said, you never saw a giraffe take its child to a rhinoceros. You never saw a lion take its child, you know what I'm saying, to a hippopotamus. Why is it I said, because this is the programming of being a debt slave. You think that you have to go make money, so you go. I mean, who wants to teach your children? There's a reason why they want to teach our children.
So we can work. Yeah. So
what you
we're working while they're, yeah.
Exactly. So they can make them debt slaves.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's nobody's teaching your children without an intention.
That's
and
right.
psychologically, they figured out that it took 12 years to break the human mind. Right? So this is all by design.
I feel that,
but
man.
you know what? There is something to that. I used to say, but I've been homeschooling for a very long time. But I used to say to people, schools teach your kids how to work at the DMV. That's what I used to say to people.
Exactly.
And they would laugh, and they would sort of laugh me off. And then when parents actually started seeing how their kids were being treated, because then they started to interact with the teachers and see what was actually going on. When their kids were complaining for years, like, the teacher doesn't like me, they're mean to me, they pick on me. Exactly. And then the parents actually started to see, yes, that was true. And people just like, you know what, snatch. And they found out that homeschooling isn't as hard as they thought it was. That their kids learn faster, they learn better.
It's our job. They're our children. I saw a video. This kid filmed in class, and he filmed his teacher a bunch of times. Every day she'd come in, bring the television in, put a DVD in, and play that and sit on her phone on Instagram and Facebook all day.
That
they
happens.
Don't They're not teaching. Yeah. The minute somebody teaches you how to think, you forget how you feel. And this is something I should bring my son up here. My son will tell you this. I'll ask him. I use them sometimes when I teach, and I say, why do you go to school? They say, we go to their school. They know it's their school. We go to their school so that we can learn how they're programming those children and learn the program that they're programming the masses with. And then once we learn their program, we know how to move around and control their program, and then we can hire those kids to work for us. My sons know. They know. Right?
Yeah, I think it's important, like public education definitely was created to give us like these basics of like reading, math, what happens with oxygen and, hydrogen peroxide. But when
no
it comes
money,
to
no
the
banking,
things,
no housing, no nothing.
Yes. But when it comes to like us really going back to the idea of like, as an indigenous person, like what are the roles that different people play in a community? And not everyone plays the same role, and everyone has different God-given or ancestrally designed talents. And I think homeschooling is one of those places where, kids can actually build on what the public education system is giving us, because charters are also being designed now in a way where like they're really focused on whether or not they have a high academic achievement rate, and they define that with college entrance, right? They don't define it with like the students that I work with in the South Bronx. I'm teaching them social entrepreneurship. Right. And most of them are now saying, wait, I didn't even know that this was an option for me. So sure, some of them want to be cops, some of them want to join the military, some of them want to be doctors and lawyers, but some are like, wait, I could be an entrepreneur. or I could be a chef, or I could be all these other things, right? And education, once it becomes a bureaucracy like the Department of Education, it really loses sight of, Greece painted this such a lovely picture of high school. But it was because some of the kids got to do shop, some of them got to do cars, some of them got to go to beauty school.
Yeah.
And America, because of its, capitalistic focus, has turned away from that.
Graduated with degrees.
Yeah, we used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
We used to be able to do that. And now, you're right, all that stuff's been taken away. And now these kids, like, I worked to start a community garden at a local school. And one of the kids didn't know what a hose was. He was pointing to it and asked, "What is that?"
Wow.
And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
it's really bad. I just lectured. I lectured E-Course High School, and I did a song, and we raised some money for their band there. The first question I was asked by a 15-year-old, he said, "They told me if I don't rap or play basketball, then I'm gonna be dead or in prison." That's the first thing that came out of this child's mouth, and it's like,
oh wow.
It's beautiful. It's like, but that's valid. I have to acknowledge that, right?
Yeah.
Validate his thoughts and his feelings. Why is this what you're being told? You came to this time space reality on your own. We're called parents because we pay rent for our children. You pay rent. You're a parent. You pay rent, right? And that's why the state still has control, because we signed that birth certificate and we signed our children over to the national debt, right? Not knowing. Right? We got to correct our status. We got to become sovereign. We got to get back to, like the sister Freya said, to that village mind state, to divine feminine. All you sisters on here, because your mother, your Metuneta, you're the first protector, the first provider, you're the healer, you're the doc, you're all that first.
And woman. Divine masculine as well, because there is a huge role that men play in a tribe, right? And that balance is necessary.
The success of the nation is based on the woman. And it's our duty to write ourselves as men and get on our square and be divine, masculine, and feminine. I tell my son, I got breasts. I'm masculine and feminine, but I don't make milk. You know what I'm saying? So where does your food come from? If your physical food comes from your mother, then your mental food comes from your mother, right? I'm going to give you knowledge. She's going to give you wisdom, right? So we got to heal ourselves. We got to heal the generational curses. We got to cut the ties, cut the tethers. I tell sisters when I speak to women, I say independent. And they're like, independent. Now I say independence. And they're like, independence and all that, sister power and all that, because y'all be in y'all mode. And I'm like, now slow down. Now say independence. You are inside of dependence. You're dependent on, can you make me a shirt? Can you make me some food? Can you grow food? Can you see? You gave them your power. We give our power away to these people. So now we become dependent on these people. Yeah. When we don't really need them. That's a spell. That's an illusion, right? That's what the simulation is. That's what the trick is. That's what the matrix is. The matrix. So we got to break that spell, break that idea or thought or philosophy or ideology of dependence, that religion. Like you take the letter G out of religion, it spells rely on, because God don't exist in religion. Our religion is love, right? Our religion is righteousness. Our religion is life and healing, right? We're here to spread light. We're not here to be none of these things. We're not here for money, college degrees. I got a college degree. It's sitting on the floor. And I just brought it out to teach somebody. I went to Berkeley. I got the Cal Berkeley. I mean, it's nothing. The universe is 360 degrees.
What do you do with that education? It's what do you do with the money?
Yeah. Well, my man, actually, Dion wants to say something right quick. Yeah. I know he hasn't had a chance to speak. Dion, do you have something
what's up with Brian?
Yeah, Brian kicking too. Yeah, but Dion, what'd you have to say?
And Dion.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's up, brother?
Yeah, what's up, man?
So you guys triggered me, as they say. And I gotta admit, what I did with Blexit, New York, here in New York City, with school choice, and that was the most spiritually fulfilling work I've ever done in my life. Since 2020, I've worked with presentations with the National Black Home Educators, in which homeschooling for Black America since 2020 to present has gone from 6% to 17% and growing, right? But in New York City, it was very important because in 2020 with the lockdowns and now with the migrants and now with the drag queen story and the safety, parents in New York City is like really, really hurting right now for options. And it's like, I also, one of the presenters at our event was National Homeschools Defense. And one thing that broke the ground was, I'll never forget it. He said, "My name is TJ Schmidt. I'm the chief counsel for the National Homeschools Defense, and I'm a product of homeschooling." And the whole Zoom just said, And then we talked about the cooperatives and some other things that we're building in New York for our community. And this one woman, she had tears in her eyes at the end, because Elf knows at the end, like People Network, she said, yes, I didn't know where to go. And this information helped me so much. I'm not letting my kids get vaccinated and all that kind of stuff.
None of
So
that.
this
None of that.
homeschooling thing is getting bigger in New York with the cooperatives we've been setting up, as well as other things to get people outside the matrix, as it were, off the government dependency. And
Correct.
no offense, public housing, but we're doing certain things here in New York that are different, where we're getting farms together to grow our own food. And I've been talking all the time about one of the things that I believe will solve public housing when I ran for office was rent to own. Now, what does that mean? If the community could rent their own housing, besides NYCHA being redesigned or, that kind of thing, is if they rent to own and have a sense of ownership, they could take it within their hands. I'll give you a perfect example I use all the time for this and how it's worked. And in NYCHA downtown, I think it was LES, one of those areas downtown, this one person with an entrepreneurship mindset turned his apartment in NYCHA into an Airbnb. Now just think about that. And after 1 year, he became a millionaire by turning that one apartment into Airbnb in the projects downtown. So imagine that across the city with that kind of subleasing implementation. However, our people have been petitioned, oh, it's illegal. You can't do that. With this one, if you could sell drugs, you could do that. You see what I'm saying? And that's one thing that New York has tried to destroy, is the concept of ownership. And if NYCHA could be subleased into an Airbnb situation, think about it. Now you have generational wealth. Now you have a community. Now for tourism purposes, you have to have safety. You're going to have security. You're going to have to keep it clean. Your child now has to man the door, has to do this. And it breaks all that cycle of seeing your grandma not work, seeing your mother not work. So of course now you're like, well, I don't have to work, because it's all that generational stuff. So that's one of the things I've been going. But now, lastly, I'll say with the government, in the states of Iowa and Arizona, it's very progressive with the school choice stuff when it comes to government monies being assigned per child, and the parents actually empowered to use this government money per child by social security number to send to private school, public school, charter school, and even homeschooling. So hopefully you can break the teachers union here in New York City to do just that. Thank you. That's it.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah.
I have something to interject on that. My fear is this, right? So you see here, I'm gonna hold this up if you guys can see this.
Okay.
All right. So you see Supreme Holdings, right? I own Supreme. And then you see my name in capital letters, right? And you look on any bank card, and then you look and you see the word Visa or Bank of America, and they're all in capital letters. And you look on your driver's license, and that's in capital letters. I'm Compton. My father is one of the administrators and the authors of the free lunch program that, for the U.S. school system. Pac and I went to Panther School, Money B. We all went to Panther School in Oakland together growing up, right? So when I moved to New York, that's when I got educated on sovereignty. We was 5% Nation of Islam, went through that. My family's history is the Comptons. If you saw 12 Years a Slave, right? So 12 Years a Slave, if you know the book, you read it, John Compton, I'm Lamont Compton. These are where we descended from. We're the slaves that were taken from Louisiana, and we built the state of Texas, right? The biggest issue is free wealth transfer, right? Because we built this country, we own this country. But what happens is there's hundreds of cities that were burned, the property was taken, all the records were burned, right? So then we go into generational wealth. How do we establish generational wealth when after the Great Depression, the Federal Reserve was established, right? Once the Federal Reserve was established, we gave all the gold, they did away with all debt. There is no such thing as debt. If you look at your bills and you see the perforated line on your bills, that's a remittance note. We don't know how to perform our bills and write the UCC codes and send it back. We don't have to pay bills. You can't get a ticket, right? You don't need a license. You don't need to register your vehicle. The DMV is a front company for the Department of Transportation. Mortgage comes from muerte or mort, which means death. That's a death note, but your home was already paid for, right? But if you know how to remit your bills, like you can purchase your car, you got 72 hours to send a remittance note in and remit, and then you own your vehicle. They cannot own anything. But if you have not corrected your status and become sovereign, and you don't have an identity, a nationality, this is our Morocco, America. George Washington said in the Continental Address to all the continents that if we find out that we the original Moroccans, the Moorish people of this land, then they will never be able to control us because we will know our true identity. The pyramids in the Grand Canyon are older than the pyramids in Egypt. This is the motherland. That's why they founded America here and not Africa. Egypt is new. So I'm sharing all that with you to say this. If you take your ID and your social security card, which is your first credit card, and your parents, if you look at your birth certificate, that's a bond note. That's a bond letter. The Department of Vital Statistics is a collection agency. It says it. And there's a red QSIP number on your birth certificate. That's an account that's established. If you purchase something under that corporation, a corpse is dead. No living person can file a corporation. We have living trust. The trust is controlled by a universal life care policy. That's our bank. And then we file the corporations under that, right? And until you do that, then anything you purchase can be taken from you because your parents sold that you into the national debt. That birth certificate, that name, you do not own it.
I got a question.
It's not copywritten. So I'm sharing with you, brothers. That's beautiful what you're doing, and it's working for now. But there'll come a time, and you see that with the debt, with the Fed coins and the money that they're coming up with, that they're going to, they can legally take our children, they can legally take our property.
But I got a question.
Because we don't own that name.
I got a question. All right, so
Yes,
sovereignty, I believe the Moorish Americans and what's this guy's name? I think Drew Ali. All right, so that's very true what you're saying, but I just put in the chat a link. So if you could do me a favor, because I'm very resourceful and I'm big on these things to share in the community.
Yeah, it's just sovereignty. It's not part of the Hebrew Israelites. It's
okay. Well, I just want to know, where is the paperwork to do just that? That's what I'm trying to
share
figure
that paperwork with you.
Yes, that's a very key, because one way we have to control our own banking that I've also done here in the community with some cannabis stuff with different colleges.
I own Supreme Cannabis.
Right. So the problem we have in New York with cannabis that I knew for like 3 to 4 years is the banking aspect. And what does that have to do with what we're talking about right now? In order for us to control our own money, which I say is first before you're doing your own business ventures, is a credit union. So one of the things in the Bronx, we have a Black-owned credit union.
Beautiful.
And things I've tried to encourage people. Now, I might be going to, little sidebar, I'm the consultant for the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Super PAC. So a lot of people don't know that California, Nevada, and some other states, I can't think of mine, I think Arizona too, they have something called interstate banking for cannabis. Now, why is cannabis key and why is credit unions key? Because these are two mechanisms that we can actually control if we do it correctly and not wait for that equity inclusion stuff that they keep preaching.
Then we don't need seed money. We have our own money to fund each other.
So, right. So that's what I propose, because I'm very solution-based instead of just, these are the problems. And so in order to control our own money, the credit union is the only system I've seen so far outside of banking that works. The credit unions are built not to fail, because every time the banks have failed, traditionally across the board, credit unions have done well because it doesn't affect them. And with a credit union, it's a concept that our people have created for generations called a susu. And if you know what that is, and partner where it's a poor man's bank where the money's circling amongst themselves, that's one way I've been preaching that we can gain towards that independence off the grid. Now, sovereignty is one thing. That's why I need that paperwork to add to my okay, as it were. But I just want to leave with that as I go back over here.
So here's this. Remember when our ancestors, when you were born, we had that family Bible. Remember that big Bible everybody had? And you stamped the baby's feet in it and you signed the baby. That was a living trust. That was a living will. Like that was his birth record. Then they did away. Then they gave us birth certificates. Why did they give us birth certificates? Yes, Noble Drew Ali taught on this, and yes, thank you for that, right? And yes, to the Moorish Americans, to the Moorish nation, we're just getting to the knowledge of ourselves. We think that we came from Africa. We were already here. You see, there were Africans that came from Africa, but we were already here. America's older. This is the first Egypt. That's the second Egypt. That's the new Egypt. That's why they put that on the dollar bill. You see? So do some homework, do some research, and you'll verify that thought, all those stuff. And there's only 3 places that you can go, and you can't go anywhere else in the Grand Canyon. You can do no excavation in the Grand Canyon because the Grand Canyon is off limits, because they know that the Grand Canyon is the direct road to Africa, right? So there's a lot of lies, a lot of things we have to uncover. But the first thing we have to do to get any control over ourselves and our children is to correct our legal status. And until we become living and recognized as living entities, and we're no longer registered as Black and registered as property and chattel property and food, so on and so forth, then we're never going to have any power. Because like the word parent says, you pay rent. If you violate their rules or their guidelines or their bylaws or their ordinances, etc., which are all illegal, they can come remove your children from your home. That means that you're just paying rent for your children. You're a parent, right? Now,
Oh, that's
how can
crazy.
you own your child? You have to go correct your child's status. You have to give them back their birth certificates, give them back their social security. That's your first credit card. Give them back their credit, and then you're the creditor. You're the creditor. When you put your money in the bank and you have money and you file, if you read for your cars, your houses, you're the creditor. They're the debtor. You own the money. You see, but we do everything backwards because we're not taught right. So why would I send my child? And this was a big issue we had during COVID. If it took you 30, 40, 50, 60 years to wake up out of this sleep, this matrix, out of this programming, right? Then why would you send your children to the same places that we got programmed at, that we got indoctrinated? We graduated in the United States with a 4th grade reading education. We're in no way ever going to be ever able to compete as a nation against other nations. And then why are we taught to compete against other nations? Why are we taught, you see, why are we taught to have such negative outlooks? Why are we taught to hate? Why are we taught violence? Why are we taught murder? Why are we taught we need to go to war? Why are we taught we need to be soldiers? Why are we taught evil at all? This is their programming, their TVs, their movies, their films, their ideology, their culture. So we have to go back to ourselves, as the sister said, and as we all know, we have to get back to who we are as souls having human experiences. And we didn't come here for this. We came here for love, gratitude, and appreciation, the 3 highest frequencies in this universe, right?
Yeah.
So if we're not operating on love, gratitude, and appreciation, then what kind of life will we ever have? What kind of life will we ever show our children? What kind of life or example can we ever live, right, to be able to teach each other?
Yeah.
When we're not operating on that.
And the
so yeah, we got to
yeah.
do the good fight, and I appreciate everybody that's here. Yeah, we got to do the work.
Yeah,
right?
The anti-war movement. Yeah.
I have a question for Supreme.
Is the true war us battling through these systems, us taking stands against all these doctrines and philosophies, these things that are already dying off? Or do we just come back to ourselves and let that fire go out? Because if we stop putting wood on it, it'll stop burning.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Supreme,
Yes,
along
please.
the lines
Yes,
of, like the birth certificates and social security cards and all that stuff. So for years, I've been telling people that same thing. Like, they basically, when you have that birth certificate, hey, they own us, they own our kids, they own everyone who has a birth certificate.
And anything you buy under that name.
Right. And the social security number is a tracking number. Okay. They can track us anywhere with that number. And, but now my question, okay, so in the state of Florida, right? So if
DeSantis.
DeSantis, that Governor DeSantis, yes. So in that state, okay, it's criminal, and they actually arrest people who do not record their child's birth. Because there's a lot of people that have home deliveries, home births. Yeah. And so they're telling them, okay, so you have a home birth, that's fine, but you're supposed to record the child's birth, and they give them, I think, 3 months to do so. And then if it comes out that the child never was registered with the State Department, they can arrest the parents.
Because once they enter into these contracts, once they have a birth certificate, a social security card, once you go and you get their driver's license, then you enter in a contract and agreement with them. We don't realize that every single thing, you don't have to answer a court summons. You think you do.
Yeah.
No judge has jurisdiction on land. Washington, D.C. is filed in the water. That's why you see the golden ribbon around the U.S. flag in a court. A court is the ocean.
Yeah.
That's why you enter and you enter into the court. You leave land and you enter water. right? And when you enter water, then you're in their court. They ask you and you agree. Do you understand? Yes, you're in an agreement with them. You chose to show up. You chose to not ask that judge, excuse me, Your Honor, with all due respect, can you establish your jurisdiction? No judge has jurisdiction on land. You choose to enter them. A police officer pulls you over, license and registration. I don't have it.
You know, and
Why?
Yeah.
I don't enter contract. I don't answer questions. I don't need a license. I'm traveling. Where are you driving? I'm not driving. I'm not operating a commercial vehicle. I'm not driving. You see? I'm not operating a vehicle. I'm traveling. And per the UCC, what is it, 1901 or 1309 or whatever, or 1903, you don't have to have a registered vehicle. You don't need that. You think you do. Okay?
I love what you're saying so
and
much
once
because
you enter into these agreements with them, then they can cite you. Then you give them right over your property.
And what you're saying is so relevant.
All you do is ask them, excuse me, can you please call your supervisor? Sarge, can you please inform your officers that I do not need a license or registration or insurance to freely travel per the U.S. Constitution. This is my private vehicle and I'm traveling in the private. They know this. Most cops don't know this though, because they're
has that worked? So, question, Supreme, has that worked for you?
I have license. I have sovereign license plates.
Mm-hmm. Sweet, yeah.
You see, and before that, I'm a Freemason, and before that, I used to have this license plate.
Okay.
You see, with 33rd, they know. So if they make our license plates, then they know who we are.
Yeah.
You see, but we got to know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I meet with Lieutenant Randy Sutton. Lieutenant Randy Sutton's the most viewed cop on the TV show Cops. Friend of mine. We're cool. We meet. We do different things. Wounded Blue, etc.
You know, and what you're saying right now is so relevant to the anti-war movement, because when you talk about sovereignty, we got to let the people in those countries also be sovereign. Is it the Ukraine fighting Russia, or is it the U.S.? It's like some weird ass stuff.
Ukraine works for U.S. Ukraine, everybody knows the secret. Ukraine's a scam.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I want to say right now is that I have some events coming up in Philly. I'm going to be DJing and there's some events up in the public housing, and also I want to play some Supreme joints. I want to get some Supreme shirts. Trust the ones that been with you. Trust not the ones that they give you. Supreme's out here with us, and I'm here to support Supreme. How can I get your stuff? You showed up for me. You're honestly right. That raises you to one of the top. Where can I get some of your materials? Where can I download your music? I'm gonna start playing it. All the people in public houses watching this, the Chelsea houses, start playing Supreme stuff. Support the artists that support you. That's what's up. What up? Really,
appreciate you.
Really.
Anything that you guys want to get, anything Wu Tang, you can go at Wu Tang. Of course, you can just do WuTang.com, Wu Tang brand. Power got the Wu Tang brand. You can go on that and go on WuWear.com. And anything Wu Tang, right? Instagram, so on and so forth. So
every
all
part of this year, I guarantee I'm playing Supreme.
The Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah, support the Wu-Tang Clan. Method Man has a medicinal brand out, you know what I'm saying, called Takao. If you can access that, if it's in your state right now, it's spreading like wildfire, go get the Takao brand. And all the albums are still selling. Go on American Saga on Hulu. We got the Wu-Tang skins on Fortnite video game. So on and so forth. My Instagram got deleted when we exposed all the pedophiles and all the corruption in Hollywood. They deleted me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark Zuckerberg. He changed his name to Zuckerberg, but Mark Rockefeller, he didn't really like, that we cost him. So I chose to make that sacrifice, and it's fine. So I'm at I Am Supreme. I really use Instagram for, messaging. I really kind of don't support social media platforms. Because like Instagram is an Instagram, and I teach that people should live more than being liked. That like causes an instant dopamine release in the brain, and that's just that trigger. That's why it's called an Instagram. It's an Instagram of dopamine. It's still drugs. So, you know what I'm saying? They still pumping the same poison. It's the same thing, right? Love yourself. We're not here to be liked. We're here to be loved. But until you love yourself, you can't love anybody else, right? So yeah, all of that's accessible there. I want to just thank everybody here that's doing the work, and say that I appreciate. I still want to hear from Mark and Brian, right?
Let's go, guys. Come on.
Before I go, so if you guys got some stuff to share, let me hear what you guys are doing.
I'll hop up really quick. I don't actually have, just because I gotta get heading out before too awful long. I got to pick my son up from his lessons. But but I just really appreciate the chance to sit with everyone. You know, I'm an organizer, and you know, I started organizing years ago just to try to organize my community for survival. I got into political organizing because feeding the people out behind my my shop was only feeding the few people who lived in the lot and under the bridge, sort of near my shop.
Is it illegal to feed homeless where you are?
It is not. It is not. No.
Actually, he does it himself. He makes food available out of the back of his shop to people. Yeah, and he's actually the elected chair of Washington State. 14 states left the People's Party in disgust. The whole right, yeah, right, Mark. 14 states left. All the states that were part of it.
14 the left. You know, for anyone who's watching, you know, Nick Brana, the whole that's not a real thing. It's not actually a party. He's not doing a thing. Anyone he's organizing
at all.
Sexual abuse.
No. It's just fake. It's just a grift
and exploitation.
And you know, we formed an actual minor party in Washington State, and then when it turned out that they threw us all out for it. Lots of states left. So anyone who's listening, MPP, the People's Party, that's not a real thing. And if you have not learned it yet and you're involved, I apologize. I'm sorry. Please get involved for real with your community. Find those issues that you really care about. And you know, I consider organizing service work. I'm looking for a community to serve. You know,
there's a public housing ally in Washington State. All right, we need that. All right.
So I wanted everyone here. I just appreciate spending time with you all. I wish I could stay a little longer, but Ed's got my contact information, and I feel blessed to have met you all. And I hope I get a chance to work with you in other ways in the future. Right? Like
I'm here to serve. I'm not Hollywood. I'll say that. I'm not Hollywood at all. I'm here to serve.
I mean, those of us real people who are suffering and want to help ourselves and our neighbors. You know, we need to stick together and build connections. And so
definitely. And Mark, I'll get your information from DJ Elf, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And I would definitely love to have you guys on my radio show.
Great.
You know, it comes on Sunday nights, 9:30 p.m. And on this show, I talk about a lot about wrongful convictions. So we have families, and actually I actually have guys that are right now behind the walls that call into the show to cry innocent, you know, tell us
I've been down those roads. I can talk to you about that.
Okay. So yeah, and then I talk about, of course, gentrification. We talk about the displacement of, you know, the long-term homeowners in our communities, and we talk about gun violence in America, talk about black on black crime. And that is a big issue to me, black on black crime. And why is that? And it's simply because, you know, we hear a lot of blacks talk all the time, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And I always say,
George Soros.
If Black Lives Matter, then, hey, why does it only matter to you when a white cop or a white racist person kills one of us? It doesn't matter when blacks are killing each other. And people don't want to hear that. Okay. Yeah. But, you know, I talk about this all the time because our children are dying every day. They're being shot. They're being killed. And not at the hands of a white racist person or a white cop, at the hands of another black person.
Exactly.
And, you know, and this has to stop. So, you know, these are conversations that must be.
I'm gonna say something to you. I'm gonna say something to you right now. I'm gonna say something right now on this radio show. It's for the hip hop artists to literally wage war against rap artists.
Yeah, exactly.
Period. Because all that drugs, the crime, the pimping, the hoes, the selling dope, the glorification of genocide.
Yes.
That's not hip hop.
Right.
Those aren't, they don't represent us. They're not part of us. They're enemies to our race.
Yeah.
And we need to treat them like that. We need to cut their funding off, cut anything off, their films, TV, all of that.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't even understand that. 2 Live Crew did Pop That PUSSY, and that went all the way to the Supreme Court. But now they popping pills, drinking. I want to have sex with every girl in the world. I'm on lean and Molly and promethazine. Like, that shit's okay now.
Right.
You see? So the music Remember, the culture's in the language.
That's right.
So if the language, if the language is corrupt, if the language is devilish, if the language is evil, if the language is promoting death, then the culture is going to reflect that.
That's right.
I
That's
think,
100%. You're 100% correct.
one of the
Yeah.
biggest threats that we're facing, I think, in the New York City area is the trill music or the drill music. I'm not really sure
Yeah,
what
exactly.
It's called
it
drill.
is.
Yeah, it's called drill.
And that music is truly harming our children in a way that doesn't
Oh,
honor.
definitely.
Because when I meet a rapper, I'm like, you're not a rapper, you're a poet.
Mm-hmm.
And you just like to put your poetry to music.
That's all we do.
You're walking away from the things that empower your community. You're harming.
Right.
That was
And
crazy
drill
how Supreme had
music
said that
is
parent
huge
thing earlier. That was crazy when he said parent. I like the way he said that. That was crazy breakdown. I like that.
Yeah,
You're renting your kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
We
though.
have to understand that when we speak, we spell. We're not
Mhm.
just speaking. Like in Hollywood comes from the hollow tree. That's where the magician's wand is crafted. Okay? So you hire a casting agent, an agent, who hires a casting director to direct the cast, who read a script, it's a scripture, and then we broadcast the spell through the television or T-A-L-E, telling a television, or we
Right.
telling lies to your vision, right? Right? Or we telling you a vision. And then you tune in to the channel, right? Because we're channeling. So they're dealing with
Wow.
witchcraft. Witchcraft is just witch. That's a question. Witchcraft. My
Mm.
craft is Freemasonry. My craft is sacred geometry. My craft is music. My craft is alchemy. My craft's not murder. My craft's not death. My
Mm.
craft's not casting poison. So I make sure that when I speak, I only speak life. I only speak
Yeah.
health. I only speak wealth.
Right.
You see? That's why old folks used to say, watch what you say, because you're literally
Mhm.
going to see your words manifest. You're going to watch what you say come to life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what you said earlier is whatever these people are doing now, remember, the way you do one thing is the way you do all things. I'm going to say that again. The way you do one thing is the way you do all things. So if they're lying now, they're going to lie later. If they're
Oh
not
yes.
helping now, they're not going to help later.
That's
Everything's
right.
above board. I come to you guys with clean hands, and I'm really here to help the people. Bullshit, because you
Right.
ain't helping the people.
Right.
That's
What
right.
Mark
Helping
said
themselves.
is Mark is organizing and he's helping the people. But in the meantime and in between time, you can get up right now and go take your ass to any food store and go make food and go feed people. You can go to Ross, what's it,
Mhm.
Marshalls, what's the other place? Burlington Coat Factory, uh, TJ Maxx, those stores where they sell stuff low prices. You can go buy 10 pairs of thermals and you go walk through New York or whatever city you in. You go put some clothes on some people's back. You can take your
Amen.
old shoes out and go hand your old shoes to somebody that can put them on. You
Right.
understand?
I just want to.
People really affect immediate change now because
Yeah.
while we're talking, children are getting taken, women are
Amen.
getting trafficked, people are getting beaten, robbed, abused. People are getting sold into slavery, into sex slavery. People's organs are getting harvested. All this
Mhm.
is happening in real
Yep.
time. This is happening while people are playing with time. When time is just an acronym for TIME, the inner mind's eye. All of this is happening because we're thinking it. When we stop thinking it, it will stop manifesting. Man, I fest. From man or woman, our body, man, I, our third eye, fest means to bring something forward. From when we manifest, from man's mind, we create. From woman's mind, we create. So until we stop thinking this, it will stop being a reality. The universe is only a reflection of our thoughts. That's the spell they have on us. We keep thinking we don't have power. We keep thinking we need to organize. We are already organisms. We are already an organization. You see, they
Mhm.
want us in uniform. That's why they put us in formation with their information. So we're in formation and we think we need to protest. We think we need to file these papers. We think we need to ask them permission. You see? But we're in submission. Instead of us being on our mission, we're in a lower mission, a substandard. You see? We're
Mhm.
not living, we're surviving, we're grinding, we're getting by, we're making it instead of thriving.
Yeah.
Because you are what you speak, you are what you think. So as long as we think and we give them power over our minds and we allow them to program our minds in our universe, our physical reality, our simulation, our 3D matrix is going to reflect that.
That's a real freedom
Yeah,
fighter.
you
That's
know,
what's up.
I refuse to believe that like our ancestors came together to ensure our survival so that we would end up in a timeline where capitalism is
Repeat
the
that.
goal.
Repeat
I
that.
refuse to, right? Like,
Repeat that.
you know, my indigenous identity so much grounds the work that I do. And I'm a direct descendant of the first people to encounter Columbus. So to me, it's like my ancestors did not go through a genocide for me to show up in 2023 and focus on wealth building. Like it's just that's not where it's at for me. It's about community, it's about dignity, it's about humanity.
Yes.
And the minute you disconnect from wanting all of those things, you realize how little you need to truly find purpose and joy. And that's what it's about. That's what was denied to our ancestors. It was purpose and it was joy. And every single one of us has the responsibility to pursue those things.
Responsibility, the ability to respond. And you said, Elf, you said freedom. See, this is the thing about the English language, which has over 1,700 words of witchcraft written into it by Sir Francis Bacon. This is witchcraft, right? So when you spell the word freedom, they left the letter E off of freedom because freedom is to free your dome. They left the E off because they will never show you equality.
Yeah, your sound grade degraded. Something. Maybe your mic wire's loose or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, your mic just your sound just went off. Yeah, maybe your mic mic wire's loose. I can hear you, but the sound quality went off.
It's not good.
Okay.
Okay.
It just all of a sudden went like bad. Yeah.
Government.
Could be. Yeah,
That happens a lot to me. It's like they be listening and they be mad.
Yeah. Well, this has been a real productive conversation. Maybe it's a good point to really start wrapping up. Yeah. Go ahead. But Brian,
can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you better now. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so here, the word freedom means to free your dome. The E is taken off of wisdom because wisdom will spell wise dome. A wise dome has wise words, wise ways, and actions, right? And that's our women. A nation's success, or a nation, like they said, a nation will never succeed. That's based on our women. We got to go back to being the sun, moon, and stars, man, woman, child, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, solids, liquids, gases, protons, neutrons, electrons. We got to go back to our sacred origin. Like the sister said, our ancestors. When you break that word down, ancestors, answers stored. Where are the answers stored? We passed everything down through oral tradition, through written, through pictures, through stories. That's where these poets, these MCs, these artists, these actresses and actors, and these lyricists and these musicians are forgetting. They're forgetting who they are in history. We started the revolution. We held the keys. We kept the traditions going. We passed the generational wealth down, which is knowledge. You see, without knowledge, we're nothing. But the only thing that cannot be taken from you is knowledge. Knowledge is the key to all things in existence. Knowledge is the foundation. So until we have our keys, then how can we access these doors, these sacred chambers, this wisdom? Wisdom is the application of knowledge, right? But until we take the knowledge we have and we build with it and we share it, then why are we worthy of accessing that wisdom? Why would our ancestors, this is a question that we need to ask ourselves, why would our ancestors get us to number 2 when we haven't done number 1? We're not worthy of 2. We haven't done number 1. We still haven't gained knowledge of ourselves. We're still separated. We're still divided. So how can we see the fruition? How can we see the work, right? When we haven't planted the proper seeds, when we haven't done the knowledge. And that means knowing who we are, knowing what we are, knowing how we are, knowing why we are, knowing where we are, knowing when we are. You see? So I'm here to tell you all that I love you. Get my information from the brother. He got my information. He could share that with you. If I can say a word, if I can come and show up, if I can do something to affect immediate and true change in somebody's life and their thinking and their path and their trajectory, right? That's my job. I'm good in this matrix. I've done that. My job is to serve, because if I don't leave you better, then I failed. And I'm not a failure. I'm supreme. The reason why I call myself supreme, the reason why the world is wearing supreme on their chest is because that's what I am, and I am that I am. And I wanted the world to know that that's what you are because I'm just you.
I know what I want, brother, and I just found what I want. And I'm going to put it in the chat. And you could do us all a big favor by doing this for us. I would like you to see if you can get us some free tickets to the 50th hip hop at Yankee Stadium.
He just put a sword over my head.
The hustler. Go ahead, hustler.
What I would want is if at that hip hop concert at Yankee Stadium, which I don't support the Yankees because they're not a good community.
That's another story. They don't pay taxes on certain property.
But I would love if that hip hop concert and Rock the Bells was able to actually demonstrate the actual nexus between public housing.
That's what's real to me. That's real to me.
What I would love.
Down. Love it.
That's what's real to me.
But I would want to go there because we're talking about what public housing is owed and how public housing should be supported.
If not, then it's just a show.
Yeah.
Who's benefiting? What money from that concert? What money from the hotels, the flights, the gas, the food, all the taxes that New York's going to generate, right? Well, the Bronx, if they do a county thing in the New York State, of course.
I mean, that building that they're putting the hip hop museum in is not truly affordable, right? And it's 149th Street. So it's not really affordable. It's not, right? So when you look at the tax breaks that these developers are getting to build the hip hop museum and the way that the hip hop community has responded to that call to action, the question should be, what is the South Bronx getting out of this?
Exactly.
And I still haven't seen it. And when you look at the rental designation for that building and the way that
we got about a less than a month to figure that out.
Oh yeah.
We're also doing a concert in Chicago with the National Public Housing Museum. Shantae, Roxanne, and Spinderella are going to be there.
Oh, dope.
Okay.
So that's another space where we're going to try to amplify the connection between hip hop and public, because Chicago lost its public housing.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. So we'll follow up for sure. My dog is like, I need to get a walk or I'm going to attack something.
No doubt. My son
tried
came
everything.
in here already.
Yeah.
So it's all love. We all human.
I don't need a dog park. Chill out.
Yeah, I was just about to mention the dog park.
My dog doesn't need a dog park. He just needs but thank you so much for this conversation, and I'll definitely follow up.
Yes,
and I'm gonna get everybody.
All of you guys, feel free to get in touch. Feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you, Brian. You were so talkative. You talked my ear off, Brian.
Hey, I wanted to hear what everybody else had to say. You want to talk about the debt system that we're trapped in, monetary theory? Well, yeah, we're
okay.
Is that your main thing? Is that your main thing?
Yeah, Supreme's right. We're doing money backwards is the problem. We're creating it as debt. It's you guys probably remember Ross Perot if you're like my age.
Okay.
And he was so concerned. Yeah, 1992. So concerned about the national debt because we owed $4 trillion, and in that year the entire GDP of the country was $6.5 trillion. And somehow somehow in that time we've borrowed $30 trillion out of thin air. The money's all made up. There's nothing wrong with making up.
It's called fiat.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with making up money. As the country grows, you got to have more money in circulation. The problem is they're doing it as debt, and instead that new money is the profit from the system, and it belongs.
America
to all
has
of us.
2 bank accounts. They're only showing you 1 account.
Well, the profit from the system belongs to us. It belongs to the people, and so
indeed. So like brother Dion's house said, we got to make our own banks and credit unions.
Hell yeah.
Everybody else does.
Yeah. Well, now, since you guys were
DJL got a 9,000 credit score. He don't.
I don't know about that, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, since you guys are on the money side of things, right, with the finances. Now, you guys, I think you remember the movie. I think it was called Time, and I think that's what it was called, where they had like the money and everything that was, in their skin. So you go and put your wrist up here, and then it shows how much money you have and all that stuff. So
it's
when that
real.
movie was out, I told everybody, I said, look, eventually they're going to start doing that for real, because if we look at history, everything that's been a movie, it's all happened. Okay, it's all come to pass, and so now and I don't know when it's going to start, but some places they're already doing it. But they're supposed to do that here in the United States of America, where they're going to do away with the dollar. Okay, the
Yeah, that's
dollar
the Fed
bills
coin.
and the cents, and it's going to either be the card, or you're going to have the chip that's going to tell you, you know, how much money you have,
Yeah,
how
they've
much
already had
credit you have.
corporations and companies they're doing it already.
Yeah, they're doing it overseas. Yeah, and overseas,
No,
some
they're doing
places
it
they've
here
already
already
started.
too.
Yeah, for some, yeah, some people are, but for it to be, but it's going to be mandated. It's going to be something that is going to be forced upon everybody. That's
Yeah,
what they're
but a
going to try
mandate's
to
not a
do.
law. That's
Right.
why we got to correct our status, because a mandate
Exactly.
is not not a law.
Exactly. Exactly.
The thing that I want to focus on with that, the least up to that, which is a concept I recently learned about called tippy-toe totalitarianism, in which right now we have to look at the current cryptocurrency trends. I'm dealing with my guys in Korea because right now everybody thinks since FTX collapsed, the cryptocurrency movement is over in America, but that's not really the case.
It's not.
And so I think I told Ed about this too, my guys in Korea, where they're trying to reboot the cryptocurrency Bitcoin systems with China and other countries to destroy the American dollar. So
right.
Yeah, China, Russia, and Africa, they're already together.
What?
Yeah.
China, Russia, and Africa already joined. They said they're the new world order.
I just got my Ghana ticket.
Oh, beautiful. Check this out. I'm going to share something with you, brother. The Freedom Fest, right? The brother who runs that, he messaged me. He said, I'm going to give you a call on WhatsApp. I said, all right, peace. Ibrahim hits me. WhatsApp. I'm talking to him. He's in Africa. He said, Supreme, don't worry about nothing. You're going to be taken care of. And I'm like, what's going on? So he does, like, you know how you do this with some money? Show me a bunch of hundreds. He goes in his pocket. He pulls out a white envelope. He goes in the envelope and he pulls his fingers and he does this like that. Wow. But it was gold money. It was dollars made out of gold leaf. It was 24 karat gold dollar bills.
Wow.
They way ahead of America. Right. America doesn't have any gold. America's broke. The world knows it. That's why all these countries are pulling out. They're going to do the fake scare. They're going to do the food scare. They're going to do all of with the climate. The Earth's heated up 0.03 degrees in the last 30 years. And it's been on a cooling trend for 1,000 years. So they can keep trying to scare people with all this bullshit. They burned over 60 food companies in the last year. They're creating the food shortage. They're creating the supply chain shortages. America's broke. So that's all that's happening. Right, their account that they're showing us is broke. So all of these are created. The vaccine, COVID was created.
Oh yes, that's right.
World War. Listen, Google this. Esquire magazine. They promoted that Obama was the first gay president. Nobody saw that. The world don't know that.
Talk about that today.
Let's not talk about Michael LaVon Robinson, but the world didn't know that the U.S. government was found guilty of assassinating Martin Luther King. Nobody knows that. They also don't know that Bush and Cheney were found guilty in The Hague, the International Court for 9/11. They were found guilty for that shit. Okay, so there's a lot of things that just aren't known. So it's like, do we continue to even rely on these people, or do we do what we used to do and just do the work? We got to do the work, city by city, person by person, city by city, state by state. Because once we knock one down, then it's just dominoes after that.
Yeah.
Once we learn the system, then it's dominoes after that. They can't stop it because they set the system up. They just govern men with the truth. Govern men T. They govern men with the T. The T is the square, right? So they govern men by the truth or the lack thereof. Once we learn the truth and we gain the knowledge of ourselves, they can't stop us no more.
Right.
Yeah.
Sovereignty is key. So you guys get my number from Elf. He said you got to go. And I love you guys and I appreciate you all. All right, and I hope to hear from you soon, and let me know where I can help.
Thank you for coming.
All right, love you all as well.
Wait, I'm gonna tell you how you can help right now. Boom. Besides those tickets, we were in Staten Island today, or yesterday. We were in Staten Island today. We had a huge victory for the fire educators. What's going on right now? Ed knows about it.
Yeah, shout out for medical freedom.
So Staten Island. I want to say this about Staten Island that a lot of people don't know, which is Staten Island, in my belief, is the only uncompromised court system in New York City.
Mhm.
Because all the other four boroughs, their court systems are controlled by the blue team, putting those judges in. So Staten Island is a great victory. Anybody that knows anybody that was fired as a result of not taking the COVID vaccine in education, from the custodians to the paraprofessionals, now's the time when the system's going to crack open. Just to announce publicly that basically the New York court officers, a lot of people don't know that the New York court officers, they won their case and they got rehired automatically and they got retro pay. You know, some people call it the pandemic, but I'm not there. But we're cracking, we're still fighting in New York, like I said, with the school choice, the homeschool cooperatives, trying to give words of encouragement to people like that. So I think I put in the chat Teachers for Choice, and also Robert F. Kennedy again, give him a plug. Children's Health Defense, which he's been on top of these vaccines for decades. We were in mainstream media, quote unquote, Pix 11, because these mainstream medias have always, since 2021, have
the
shut
FDA
out
doesn't even
everything.
support the COVID vaccine. The FDA doesn't support it, and we got the documentation that was a military program.
Yeah.
Right, so we got that. So Staten Island, I want to give a shout out to you guys. Your court system is the only way, you know, we beating this blue team control city. But peace and love, family.
Oh, you're a vegan?
What?
You're a vegan?
He is, yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, bring that up too. I'm gonna put this in the chat too. It's called Plant
Vegan. I'm a vegan too.
So,
Since 1977.
What's up, DJ?
Yeah.
Only a vegetarian here.
So, Chris, we're just about ending, right? Chris is actually my co-host on Sundays. We do a local political talk show.
Hey, Chris.
He's wonderful.
What's
and
up, everybody?
Supreme, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much once again. So many people are inspired, like, you know, public housing, wrongful convictions. Shout out to Nolan Farrell and Reverend Keith Gadsden fighting for their wrongful convictions, and all the people that Chinchilla's working with. So many people are really looking for you for inspiration, and you are making a difference today, just with Staten Island and the people. You know, thank you so much.
So what y'all talking about, by the way? I just got your text, man.
Chris, you basically missed it. Yeah, we're basically done. Yeah.
All right, my bad, bro.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But you was with us in spirit, man. We appreciate you, Chris.
But Chris, I just put in the chat a program that I did that I've been putting out there. It's called Plant Power Metro New York. And Plant Power, because I don't know how to cook, it has the whole package with the Jumpstart. They teach you how to cook. They teach you how to go to the farmer's market and stuff like that. The most important part of Plant Power Metro New York is the mindset, with the mentorship program from your mentor, with the groups of people that's learning, people that's already there deep and heavy. That'll help you, wean yourself off this fake food. Because I didn't know potatoes and carrots, they could be perfect.
They're starch, they're fake foods.
Yeah, there's like
rest in peace, Dr. Sabi. We love you, Dr. Sabi. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
All right, peace and love, family.
Thank you so much.
All right, peace.
All right, cool.
Thank you, Elf.
All right, one love.
Later,
Thank you.
Peace.
All right.
Good night, all.
Peace.
All right, so that's it. We're gonna actually let me just close this